Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build yourself a pirate ship. Complete with an above deck, a below deck, and we even have the captain's room, all the ropes for the sails, and you can even add in some cannonballs. So without further ado, let's investigate how we'd go about this. To begin, go into the water and make the bottom of this ship about 3 blocks under. Of course, you should change that depending on how big you plan on going. This is a non-exact instructions tutorial, which means you can copy this or you can choose not to. Instead, you can choose your own dimensions. So I'm going to go in with that assumption. So notice the shape, we have the bow perfectly straight, and then we have this more boat-like shape. We have a nice thing that goes all the way to the flat bottom and then a sharp incline at the end. Then you can see from above, let's take a look and we get this boat-like shape. It's a diagonal, and you can see how it gets smoother as you get towards the back before rounding out like a circle. Not an exact circle, so you can eyeball it. Then go to the sides and you can see here how it goes down. This is just a long, arduous process. I can't say too much about it besides it's layered, and you can see a lot of stairs and slabs. Keep things consistent though. Don't change to a steeper and then back to normal. Don't do that. Try to keep it nice and consistent for everything. Then we can see here how that works out. We get eventually a ship-like shape. Don't forget, you can use trapdoors to help you if you're having trouble. Towards the back, we get a bit flatter, and you can see how we're almost square. We cut off the corners though to make sure that doesn't happen. Still, we just go in and we continually make modifications to make sure this works. But as long as you have the center, then you'll be fine. Here's one last look before I put it right back in the water. So you can see here, it's just going to be perfectly mirrored. And it's a bunch of stairs, a bunch of slabs, and it's not the best, it's not perfect, but once you put it in the water, it becomes much less noticeable. Eventually, we start adding unique blocks to it in order to make sure that shape is less distinctly recognizable and it looks more realistic. So, don't worry about it if you're having trouble with the hull, just get it to an acceptable state like here, and then we'll spice it up. If you have a bigger boat, you'll even have cannons on the sides of it. However, this one is a little bit too small for the double layer cannons. Either way, go up here and start placing down long layers of planks. We want a pretty simple flat ground. Once that's done, go to the sternum of the ship, the middle, and we want to start making it out of dark oak. This is to provide some necessary framing to it in order to make it look like it was put together properly. Then, build a nice dark oak railing all across the ship, because otherwise we'd have an OSHA violation. Then go in the back, and you can see we're going to do the same thing, section off this back so we can add a fancy color. I'm also experimenting with the captain's room here, but the exact size is completely up to you. I've found multiple that work and multiple that don't, and it really just comes down to your exact ship. Anyways, for your railings, go down, and using 2 slabs pressed together, you can see how I've managed to make the railing wider. This is very important because it provides some depth to your boat. So now we have that railing, and then we lower it one more because I just wanted to. Be sure you have the correct height to begin with, because this is not feasible to change in survival. So now we have all this, and we're going to go in and we're going to place down some stairs and slabs to jazz up the railing. You can see here, this is mainly down to personal preference and there's no exact instructions. Just keep it in mind. Then 2 blocks or 3 blocks depending on the height of your boat, or even 1 block below the railing, we want to make another line of dark oak. And then we're going to do a different color. This would be the paint. While mangrove might be accurate, I will say this is Minecraft. Use what colors actually work. So in this case, let's do red nether brick. And you can see that provides a nice vibrant crimson to the boat. It makes it look both menacing and professional. Now on the back, we do the rudder. This is just a little shape here, and you can copy this exactly. Connect it with some fences. Then go to the front, and you can either put a statue or just some simple rocks like this. Deep slate works well because it's darker than the dark oak, although it is completely up to you. You might want to put a mermaid if you have room if you're doing an especially giant boat, but for now, just a little bit of cobbled deep slate is perfectly serviceable. Then, the cannons. Even if this is meant to be a pacifist vessel, remember, peace through strength. Thus, we will put in some cannons. I recommend this method with some polished blackstone. put some tripwires on the back and then some dark oak to hold it. So we have 10 cannons on this boat. We can animate them later using the intro, because this video does not cover how to do cannons specifically. Now, for the final main thing to the hull, if you weren't able to fit cannons on the lower decks, add ribs to it. Of course, not the official term, but still. These ribs here provide just a little bit more structural integrity to it and makes it look really good. So do that and then round out the top sections. You can also see here, make sure you don't let any of the red nether brick appear under the cannons. That would look really weird. And towards the back, you can add in more of those ribs in order to divide up the red if you want to. Now, a few blocks from the back, maybe 10 or so, we can start building the captain's room. This will be your map room if you do not have room, because of course this vessel doesn't have much below deck. So we have all that, and now we're building the staircase up, lots of dark oak pillars, and then we do the railing trick again. The ship's wheels right there, 3 levers on a log with a stair, and then if you really wanted to get accurate, you'd add the navigation room separately. However, you can see the size of this boat doesn't exactly accommodate for that. Still, even though I had to get rid of it, add this lantern. Now we have the lantern on the back, and then we have the part that drops the anchor. I forgot the exact term. But still, just some chains around a log in the middle, and then the anchor itself you can pause and take a look at. Then we start adding the masts in order to hold the sails. This is where the majority of your time will be spent on this build, because the sails are both a unique shape reliant on physics, and, well, you have the ropes, which are also reliant on physics and made of fences, which can be quite inconvenient. Still, choose some varying heights for these and make sure that your masts are taller than this. It is easier to build them if they are taller, and if they're too short, you'll run into more issues than if they were too tall. So we have that. Now we trial and error for the sail shape. We want them to bow outward and especially bulge out in the middle, because that's how wind works. Remember, you are catching the wind, as in you are sailing with it. So you can see here, technically that worked, but I didn't like it. Instead, we want to go even bigger. So I raise up our masts, and the bigger sails you have, the better. So we have all that, and now we're just going to try the simple red shape. You want to make them thinner in the middle, because when you do that, it makes it look like you actually bowed outward. Don't do it too much though, otherwise it will look unrealistic. But right here, we have an amazing shape. So let's go up and build a smaller version. You might want to practice with a smaller version first to get the gist of how you actually do sails. Like this one here, you can see I'm going to adjust mast sizes, the distance of the poles, and now finally I added some yellow wool to the tops and bottoms. So we have a good idea of what we want. On the back, you can even add these 2 diagonal sticks in order to have the turning sails. So we have that, the yellow borders, and now we also have the flag of a random country at the top. Make sure it looks like it's going the wrong way, because that's how it actually would look in real life. So now we have the sails here, and now we're also going to gradient them. This will get interesting. Because we are using wool, no stairs or slabs, we can add concrete to it. So you can see how that darkness makes it look like there's a shadow on it, which is accurate. Add this to every single sail, because that will break it up and make it less monotonous. Once you get these first few sails down, the rest is smooth sailing. But yeah, in all seriousness, this is a good sail pattern, and you can embroider it with a skull or a coat of arms, anything like that. So get creative and don't worry about the resolution too much. Just get the general shape if you're doing a coat of arms. So now we have all that, and you can see here our sails are looking very good. But there's still more to be had. We'll do those later though. Let's take a break and do the captain's room, because for most people, we'd understand this as a perfectly functional pirate ship. So for the captain's room, more dark oak pillars, and then we add some windows to this. Make sure this has windows, because that's a sign of wealth, and the captain, of course, although democratically elected usually, is of course quite wealthy. So make sure this room is the pinnacle. Additionally, add in some of the fancy paints to the sides if you can. And then, here's the fun part. We actually get to decorate a room completely. So we do some stripes across the ceiling, lots of trapdoors, and then you make sure you have some lighting. The windows are gradiented, pause if you want to look at them, and then we experiment with some varying walls hanging down. So there's a bunch to uncover in this room, but ultimately, yet again, personal preference. So let's just build very quickly. A map, some bookshelves, a fake bed, skulls, bunch of things, maybe even the parrot in the scaffolding cage with a trapdoor below it, add in some carpets using wool and carpet, and then you can even see we have a map room with the jungle and the oak to make sure it looks like there's land and sea. So now, taking a long look at this, some candles, some chests that improperly merged in replay mod, and some note blocks to look like crates, we have ourselves a pretty interesting room. Of course, make up your own ideas and you can comment them down below, because the more ideas, the better. That's really the idea of interior decorating. Additionally, we can add some fabrics to the back. However, a word of caution, this might not work on all boats, especially if you have a lot of pillars like I did. So ultimately, I get rid of most of them. But still, this is a fantastic way to spice it up if you can make it work. Although, the real thing that matters is making sure your windows actually are decorated. If they're just there, then they don't work. Instead, shelves, trapdoors, stairs. Make sure the railing actually works, and now we do this to the back windows as well. So now, when we do this, it makes it look a lot better. This is a general rule of building though, so keep this in mind whenever you're doing any structure. And now, the fun part, the ropes. It's just a bunch of oak fences that connect the edges of the sails and varying parts of the mast. The exact specifications would be too much to actually build in Minecraft, so I did a more simplified version. So you can see here, make sure it is just nice and smooth between the varying parts, and then when we have all that together, then you just connect things. So you can see here, connect multiple ropes together, make sure the masts and the sails are touching, stuff like that. And you can even double up to make them look reinforced. There's a bunch to the rope building, but fortunately, just pausing and taking a look is really all you have to do for this one. So once you do that, then connect the top parts, then connect the individual sails to make them look more professional and more like a real boat. As you can see here, it's really just a lot of putting in more sails. And then you can add little sails in the middle that help with turning. This is also very important, and this is really what sets your build apart. So be very certain to do that. And you can see them here. Notice they still have the gradients. Now to really wrap this up, add in some stuff onto the deck. Of course, the trapdoor hole for the cargo, and then we have some blackstone surrounded in trapdoors. We have some sandbags in the form of oak slabs. We have tripwire hooks for the cannons, flares, and we have some note blocks to act as crates. You can also replace parts of the ground with spruce trapdoors, and then add little life rafts, in case, the ship is going down. So we have all this, we add some extra lighting, verify that works, and then you can take it, look at it, and you're done if you only wanted to do the exterior. Melons also make a great addition to this, as does placing polished deep slate where the ropes connect as if they were connected to some sort of mooring line. Now, we have the interior, and this is just a little time lapse of it. We wanted to go for something a little bit more streamlined for this. There's not much you can do because our thing is pretty accurately shaped, and because blocks are so big, yeah. But if you have a very large boat, don't forget you can add cannons. So here we have melons covered in ropes, we have some barrels, the kegs for ale, and you can see we have bunk beds, we have trapdoors on the ceiling, all these little things. In the back, we have room for spare sails, although that doesn't seem like enough to repair anything. Still, we have ourselves the brig here, seems like an inconvenient spot because it would be noisy. But regardless, we have a completed pirate ship. So with that, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe. And note, once you have this done, you are the captain now. Either way, enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw out.